Welcome back to Used to Sew, a podcast about vintage sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host, Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about the definition of a workhorse and a crazy quilt of related topics, mainly needles. This episode's purpose is to let TR vent about an irritating idiom in the sewing machine world. Spoilers for next week, she kind of walks it back. And we take the opportunity to get deep into how sewing machine needles are made. We recorded this right near the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, looking ahead towards the hot season. So of course, our discussion had to start with how to use fabric to create coolness and shade even where none exists. Then we take the irritating idiom and transform it into a metaphor that we can drive into the ground past the point of good sense. Finally, we learn about how needles are made and how they interact with the various types of thread. Because of course, even these most simple of tools have to be quite complex if you pay attention. And that's why we gather here every week, right? To learn that nothing is simple when you slow down and think about all the steps needed to accomplish the task.
Hey, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, dogs and cats, birds of all species, welcome! Are you threaded? We're threaded. I'm over on the east side of Oregon, and Radia's over on the west side, and I think we're both under a heat wave right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Yesterday got into the 90s. Today, I believe, is supposed to be just in the 80s. So we are coming out of the heat wave, but it is still quite toasty. And I'm being very strategic about windows open, blinds down, or windows closed, blinds down. There's a whole routine with the house. I love my house. My house is very easy to keep cool, but it does take attention.
It does. A house is a living, breathing thing. And you having that high vaulted ceiling really helps out with heat. That's one thing we've built in the cabin over here. We've got both RVs and the cabin in progress. The roof is half on. The exterior is half painted, but it stays cool in there. But like you said, strategic opening and closing of windows, and we don't even have it insulated yet. I do have 2 sewing machines set up and working, though. What have you been working on, Ray? Things to mitigate solar gain on your white skin?
Yes, indeed. I was just today in my laundry room.
Ooh, that's hot.
Doing some laundry, and I realized that my feet felt like they were on fire, and I looked down because I'm standing in a puddle of liquid gold that is just pouring through the window that faces southeast.
Yeah.
Just absolutely raging. Like Garfield would not be able to resist this sunbeam. It is absolutely nuclear. And I'm looking at the window. I'm just like, I think I have fabric for that. So I went into my sewing room, grabbed a piece of lace, held it up, was like, absolutely not. Nowhere. No. This lace is way too wimpy. Go back into the sewing room, find a different piece of fabric that is all kinds of odds and ends poking off of it, but there's a rectangle in the middle with like weird bits. Perfectly sized rectangle for the area in question. So I have it laid out on my table. At some point later this afternoon, I'm going to go in there, cut off all the little tags, finish the edges, sew a thing in it. And because it's a door, not a window, I can't, just put it on a rod and like drill it in, right? It's a metal edged door.
Right.
Metal panel door. I don't even know what to call those. So I'm going to sew a tube for some magnets because we have a whole bunch of little disc magnets.
Yeah.
So I'm going to slide a bunch of those in, put a few hand stitches in just to keep them apart and be able to actually put that up on that window and hopefully get a lot less heat pouring into the laundry room.
Gosh, way to use, again, fabric you already have, right?
Yeah, I just went in there and was like, I know I have sheets of white, because I've tried to acquire white fabric for like muslins and stuff like that. That's very handy for then being like, oh, I'm just going to throw that over a window real quick.
Real quick.
It's going to be a very simple project. I'll be able to do it with the half a brain cell I'll have left after podcasting all day. It's going to be real easy, but it's going to make a big difference in dealing with the fact that we're already having heat waves in June.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, my trailer's being shaken right now. We're having a dust devil, which is an EF0 tornado, basically. I'm at 4,400 feet elevation here. The sun is sharper and more needly. It's a little more pokey on the skin. And I come from very undermelanated Northern European genetics, and the sun is I have to avoid it. I have to. It hurts. It just hurts. I've got pale blue eyes, white hair, and the darkest I can tan is maybe white toast, slightly sprinkled with cinnamon.
Same. We are identical in that regard. Well, my hair's yellow still, but it'll be white someday.
I cannot stand the feel of sunscreen. Again, it's an autism thing. I just that slimy texture, and then my skin can't breathe. So what is a sun-sensitive person to do? Textiles, ladies and gentlemen, physical barriers. I've been getting all kinds of ads in my social media for these UV farming shirts, farming hoodies.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. I want them.
Long sleeves and a hood and all that, but it's not a natural fabric.
No, it looks like a swimsuit, and I don't like swimsuits either. I want one, but I don't want one.
Cooling and wicking and 50 SPF and never needs reapplied and covers your neck. It looks great, but I can't. Oh, I just can't. Plus they're, $55 or whatever. So what did I do? I pulled out my collection of white sheets, but they're all too heavy. They're all sheeting. Sheeting is very densely woven. It doesn't have a lot of air to it, but one of my last thrifting trips, I picked up this really cool pair of loosely woven linen pants, but they were size 4X. Okay, I'm a size 1X. Whatever, 18. What did I see? I saw really nice fabric.
Can always take fabric away. That's easy.
And I thought, well, But then I got home and it's like, nah, I don't really want to. I love this fabric, but this isn't pants. So what did I do? I took it apart and I set it aside. Disassemble. What did you say? Disarticulate. Yeah. Then I was out helping the old man. We were putting the roof on the cabin. We were working on that last week. And that's when it started to get up into the 80s, getting the mid 90s today. And I'm like, my hat is good. I don't have any light colored shirts. I don't have anything. And then I went, wait a minute, that linen, that lightweight linen. Okay, there's not enough to make a shirt, but there was enough to make, I invented a garment, 2 big fluffy sleeves joined by just the smallest of yokes. It doesn't even cover my boobs, but it fits right over all my sleeveless sundress things that I like to wear and covers my arms and shoulders.
It's a shell.
Yeah, it's like a little bolero jacket or a shell.
Yeah. Oh, that totally makes sense because, you've got all the nice sleeveless sundresses to cover everything else. All you need is that shoulder, neck, arm.
Yes. And here's the bonus. Okay, linen. Linen is a wonderful summer fabric because it absorbs moisture and then releases it slowly. So you get this evaporative effect.
Be your own swamp cooler.
Pretty much. That's what we're going to get over here, actually. The humidity is around 12% all the time. But anyway, so if I take this little shell jacket and I soak it in water, wring it out, and it's nice and damp and put it on, now I can go outside. It's always windy here. I'm in the desert. It's windy. There's no trees to break it up. As long as I've got water and shade and wind, I figured this out when I was down in Yuma. I'm pretty good up to about 104. So I was like, all right, I'm getting acclimated. What I really want is a bunch more of that sort of fabric to make caftan-y type. I mean, look at how the people in super sunny, like the Middle East, look at how Arab people dress in their traditional dress before they got air conditioning and stuff. I used to wonder about that. Layers and layers of white clothing, and it's a hot place. But like you found out, the sun on your skin is even hotter.
It's so much worse. Direct sun contact is, oh my God, any amount of fabric.
It hurts.
Any amount of fabric makes such a difference. That's why I love this blue hat of mine, is it makes a good puddle of shade I can hide in.
Puddle of shade. I love that. Cool metaphor.
It's high quality. That hat actually claims to have a UV rating, and having worn a lot of different hats, most of which didn't have a UV rating, like given as part of their sales pitch, like it does make a deeper, denser shade than the other hats. Like I don't know what it is about the weave, but like it actually feels like it blocks out more radiation. But yeah, I also hate sunscreen. I do put sunscreen on my face when I know I'm going to be somewhere that's super bright, like if I'm going to go to the beach or like be, I know there's going to be enough reflected indirect light that like my face skin will get crispy. But yeah, I avoid it like the plague. I'd much rather just hide in the shade, wear
Yeah.
light, fluffy clothing, carry a parasol. Like I want mechanical protection from the sun instead of, yeah, that slimy. I'll use it if I have to because I hate being sunburned, but I don't like it.
This is my first summer here at this location, our new place. I have 30 acres. I have one tree, and it's nowhere near the house. The most valuable thing out here is shade. And that's true all over the world, places that are super sunny. What do people need? You need shade. You need shade. We forget about shade. And that's one of those textile uses that we think, oh, clothes. How many cultures the world over have their dwelling places partly or wholly made of fabric, textiles?
I guess a lot of nomadic people with tents and other foldy things, yurts and stuff like that.
Yeah, making little brush shelters because you're following your animal herds. A lot of the nomadic people are following a thing. Okay, so nomadic people now in the Western U.S. are following the climate and jobs. There's a whole nomad thing out there. You may have heard of the town Quartzsite, Arizona. That's kind of nomad capital in the winter. If you see the movie, what is that movie with Frances McDormand? Nomadland. Very good view of that. Anyway, there's a joke that you're not really a nomad unless at least a third of your house is made of fabric.
Okay, all right.
And I'm looking at my RV right here. I've got my awning pulled out all the way. That's fabric. Then I've got a sunshade that I have clipped and sewn to the south side. And that's fabric. It's one of my big sheeting sheets. So that keeps the center section between. So fabric can be arranged with ropes and clips and all kinds of things to give you shade. And when you're camping in a parking lot of a festival or living in the middle of the desert or maybe out in the dunes, fabric can be your friend. And usually not much sewing required. If you like buy a big sheet, okay, you want, maybe learn how to put grommets, or you can just do that thing where you tie a rock in and that's your little grommet thing. But yeah, sheets.
Oh, you're talking about that, and you suddenly flashed me back to reading this book. Okay, this is an old book. It's by this pilot named Saint-Exupéry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this book is called Wind, Sand, and Stars. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I
It's
love that
you want
book.
to read about a person flying a weird little plane in a bunch of strange places and having wild experiences because it was, 1930 or something when he starts flying, I think. Like
early age of aviation, yeah.
Yeah, it's wild, but there's a instance, or maybe there's a couple instances of him crashing in the desert and having to survive in the desert for a couple of days, and having the sheeting material, like a big tarp, is kind of critical to their ability to survive, both to create shade and to collect some dew that they're then able to consume. It's kind of like the difference between life and death is having that sheet of material.
It is.
When they crash just in the dunes and then have to, get rescued by guys on camels or whatever it is that happens,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I just watched that Tom Hanks movie, Castaway, last night. And he's cast away on a desert island and a piece of a porta potty washes up. And all of a sudden, oh my God, I've got this big piece of fabric in the larger sense, which is a thing to make something out of, the sort of a sheet-shaped thing. This beat up piece of plastic, but it allows him to make a raft and escape because he'll have shade when he's out there on the sea, right?
I've never actually seen that movie. I know the basic, meme level tropes about it, but I've never actually seen the whole thing.
It was our episode on Wheeler and Wilson. And
because
Wilson.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I've never seen that movie, and I freaking love Tom Hanks. I've got Starlink now. Let's stream everything we ever wanted to watch and then some. But anyhow, textiles. One of the first things he does after he crashes, his plane crashes in the ocean. He washes up on a little tiny volcanic blob of nothing. One of the first things he does is breaks rock, makes a sharp rock, and hacks off the bottom of his pants. So now he's got shorts, and he ties that fabric around his feet because he lost his shoes in the crash. Man, even among people who don't wear clothes, having some kind of textile built thing around your feet is like a little rabbit hole here. The oldest sandals in the world were found 20 miles from here in Fort Rock. They're over 10,000 years old. They're made out of sagebrush bark.
Yeah, there's a poster of them at the Eugene airport that you see whenever you come in, and it says the oldest running shoes or something like that, because, Oregon and sports athletics and all of that
track
stuff.
Town,
so it's like, neener, we got the oldest track shoes.
Well, and this is where actual running shoes were invented in the 70s.
Also that, right? It's a fun tongue-in-cheek thing.
pouring chemicals into his wife's waffle iron to make a new type of sole.
I'm sure that was very good for both their health.
Yeah, shoes. That's shoes and hats. Think about that also in climates where the sun's in your eyes. A lot of places make, hats and visors. And a lot of this is more weaving than sewing. But that's like, I just got out all my patterns and it's like, okay, where's that big sun hat one? Or then thinking about my little house on the prairie fixation. Sunbonnets. If you've ever worn a sunbonnet, it is one of the most practical, well-designed pieces of gear for its environment, which is the windy plains states of North America. You've got to have a deep shade and it's got to not flop around in the wind. But I tried driving my Volvo wearing one of those and people were like, what in the hell?
This feels anachronistic and perfect at the same time.
I'm starting to think of our episodes as crazy quilts. They've got all these cool little bits in them. And sometimes we hit a large piece of fabric and sometimes we're just sewing the other little velvety bits. But I do have a few bits to talk about. Is there some words that you just don't like that are overused cliches?
Yeah. I can't think of any right now, but because my mind just went totally blank. But yes, absolutely.
Skyrocketing. Engulfed. Do we have any other words that mean the same thing? Every story about a fire is going to have engulfed.
Oh,
every story about inflation or gas prices or whatever taxes is always going to be skyrocketing. Is going to be in there somewhere. And there's one word that always pops up in sewing machine ads or people talking about sewing machines, and this word drives me effing crazy. Any guesses?
Well, again, I've never heard of a word in my life. My brain is completely blank.
That's a real workhorse.
Oh, I was like, I know it can't be industrial because we just talked about that. Workhorse. Okay.
Oh, yeah. My featherweight's a little workhorse. Oh, this Davis is quite a workhorse.
Yeah, this is the fantasy. Okay, so in fantasy books, I think the equivalent would be, dropped like a sack of potatoes. I have seen multiple authors do a fourth wall breaking level of like, I'm going to specifically not say that. And I'm going to make a point about how I didn't say that because it's such an overused cliche. So yes. Okay. I can think of one. I managed to think of one example. All right. Workhorse. It's a cliche.
Workhorse. It's a very sewing machine cliche. I cannot think of anything else that's a workhorse. Not even a truck. My Ford's a real workhorse. No, because a horse is like smaller. But a horse to a sewing machine, ooh, it's a workhorse. What is a workhorse? What is that? Where did that come from? Workhorse, noun, from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. A horse used chiefly for labor, as distinguished from driving, riding, or racing. That's definition 1. Probably the original one. Definition 2, a person who performs most of the work of a group task. 2, section B. This is one we need. Something that is markedly useful, durable, or dependable. Okay, so that cliche word, something that is markedly useful, durable, or dependable, we call that a workhorse. I guess it's just because I'm a word nerd and cliches bug me. But okay, let's say what machines are actually in that definition of the term. Let's just go with it. I'm not going to be a snooty elite word freak here. My sewing machine's a real workhorse. What are you trying to say about your sewing machine? That it'll sew through anything? that it's never needed repairs, that it...
If someone says that to me, I'm assuming that they mean it doesn't need repairs and it needs very little maintenance and it just works for years without, like, with a lot of use. I feel like this has to be coming from someone who actually uses their machine.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you have any right to even begin to touch this cliche unless you actually sew a lot. But yeah, I feel like, a lack of repair is what I'm going to think of when someone says that.
A lack of repair. Okay. When somebody says that to me, I picture that they're going to be sewing heavy stuff and not really, they're going to be sort of just using this machine like a power tool.
Yeah, that also sounds about right. I do also hear that as well. That makes sense.
It's not going to be named Ellie Mae and kept in a climate-controlled room.
No, that's not for fine work, for sure.
Well, now that takes us back to the actual definition here, meaning 1, a horse used chiefly for labor as distinguished from driving, riding, or racing. So how about a sewing machine chiefly used for heavy common work as distinguished from embroidery, heirloom sewing, or,
Okay, yeah.
Kind of, okay, workhorse. Markedly useful, durable. Okay, so you can say this machine's a real workhorse, but that is so... Because it's a cliche word that has so much history in it, it doesn't really mean anything. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of a cliche, right? It's like a stereotype. It's there to be both wrong and grounded in some kind of truth. But yeah, does it actually add to the conversation in a meaningful way?
Especially if it's patently not true.
Yeah.
That's where when people describe the featherweight as a workhorse, I snort tea out of my nose. It's not.
Because it's not. It literally can't meet that definition.
So in that respect, I think they're looking at it as a hardworking survivor of another time. Think horses as like anachronisms, right?
Sure, I don't have a real horse, but I do have this machine from an era when horses were a normal thing to have.
Right. But and I think a lot of people that say that have never actually sewn on one. They just know their reputation. Oh, a featherweight. That's that really neat old singer that my grandma could sew horse blankets with 14 hours a day. No, it's not. People may sense my occasional hostility towards featherweights. It's not hostility. The featherweight has been unfairly placed upon a pedestal and made into a cult object and expected to be much more than it was ever designed to be. I don't own one. I buy them. I sell them to people who really like them. It's not that I don't like them, but I don't have a place for that kind of a horse in my particular barn.
Speaking of kinds of horses.
What?
Total tangent.
We don't never do that.
I took my specialty horse, my embroidery horse, to the vet, to the shop.
Okay, to the vet, right?
Finally got off my ass and I took the embroidery machine that does not work and has never worked to the Viking repair people, took it in there, told them the problem. They said it will take them a few weeks to even look at it. But yeah, I did it. I actually moved it out of my closet and onto someone else's workbench. So if it's fixable, I should get a call about that in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yay for Viking.
I will update you all on how that goes.
Even though their name is Viking, they're like, I think Eugene's oldest sewing machine dealer. They've moved around 5 or 6 times and they're nothing like they were back in the 80s. If they can't fix it, nobody in Eugene can fix it. But I think your machine, even though it's a Burnett, I think it's a Brother basically under that. But I'm anxious to see.
The tech didn't blink. The tech just reached out, took it, and asked me some questions about what the problem was. Wrote it all down and handed me a slip and said, "We'll get to you in as much as 3 weeks." Like they didn't twitch seeing the Burnett.
They've got a couple old dudes that work on machines, and they're the only place in Eugene I think that works on industrials. And they've even got maker space down there where you can take a class on their industrials and then rent them by the hour. If you want a real commercial or industrial machine, see if there's a maker space in your area and go try one out. Always fun. So if you've got a place that deals in industrial machines that's not, selling them to individual makers, not like I want to sell you 250 Jukies for your t-shirt factory, that kind of thing.
Anyway, I just remembered I wanted to tell you and the
Yeah,
audience about
that's
that.
cool.
We can end the tangent there, though. Whatever it was you were talking about. Back to that.
Okay, so workhorse is a word. Let's use that word as, okay, it's tough, dependable, no. I don't think the featherweight's a workhorse. What domestic sewing machine would I actually call a workhorse? Well, it would have to be simple, easy to take care of, able to do heavy-duty plowing out in the field all day, not eat much, meaning few repairs, no trips to the vet, and versatile. Able to do plowing of sewing of small, I'm getting my horse metaphors mixed up. I would pick the Singer 66.
I knew it. I was betting with myself you were going to say Singer 66. Literally had a bet with myself. Boom.
Singer 66, invented in, I think, 1903. It has no gears.
Can't break a tooth if you don't have them.
It has, well, of course, they aren't plastic or metal. Everything's done with crankshafts and rocked fork feed things that change the oscillating motion to rotary and back again. It's a simple machine, and because it's simple and it's heavy duty and it's big and easy to operate and just takes a little oil once in a while, we'll use a bunch of different kinds of needles and thread. I nominate the 66 for my favorite workhorse. Now, that also includes the Shetland pony version, which is the 99, the 192, and the 185K, which are basically the same machine, but with shorter legs. I mean, shorter internal shafts.
Shetland pony.
In that architecture of metaphors, the featherweight would be the little dwarf pony that isn't good for anything but looking cute in your front yard.
That was where I was going to extend it to. It's like just the one you can put like a 5-year-old on for their birthday, but that's about it.
Yeah.
No plowing is going to be happening with this one.
The featherweight is the most superior machine to take to quilt classes, hands down, because it's so light, so small, packs up so easily, and everybody knows about them. And, if yours isn't working right, there's going to be somebody there that can twiddle it for you. It's great, but it's not a workhorse. It's a work pony.
It's a little hummingbird.
Hummingbird. Yeah, that's good. So why did I say Singer? Why didn't I say like the FAF 130 or this or that? Because a workhorse to me is a common horse. It's brown. Everybody's got one. You can get horseshoes for it at any feed store, right? The Singer 66 is ubiquitous. You can buy all the parts if you ever need any, and makes a great treadle, which is how it was invented, which is why it's so light running and easy to turn. It was built as a treadle. Hand crank, especially in the UK. Kilbowie 66s were pretty much always hand cranks, and most of them had the Lotus decals to start with, and can be electrified. You could put a domestic motor on it, and Singer had several sizes and types. Or you can get brave and put a bigger motor on it. But since it's an oscillator, I wouldn't put a big motor on to go fast. I'd put a big motor on for maybe more torque, more piercing power. That would demand different size pulleys. Anyway, a Singer 15, any of the 15 series is good, but I fall off my list because I don't like removable bobbin cases. I like a top drop-in bobbin. I got so many machines with removable bobbin cases. I know how to use them all, long shuttle, whatever. But the simplicity of the top drop-in bobbin is just beautiful. I love that. So 15s, And why not something that's not Singer? Because Singer's ubiquitous. It's Chevrolet. It's everywhere. Okay. So fans of other machines, yeah, I'm sure that your favorite brand has some workhorses in it. Write me and tell me what they are. Now for zigzag. But I need a zigzag. I can't just use an old straight stitch machine. I had to look back through the Singer line. My favorite zigzag is with 319W, but it is incredibly complicated and finicky, and I would not recommend it to people who aren't into sewing machines. So what would be my zigzag recommendation for a workhorse in the Singer line? I would put up the 403 Slant-O-Matic. Not the 401A with all the chicken beak knobs on the front and cams. Not the 404, which is a sort of a omatic looking non-omatic. I mean, it's from the slant needle, gear drive, top drop in bobbin. Okay, slant needle, gear drive, top drop in bobbin. The 403 has some cams, so you can do some zigzags. Yay! So 403 and 404. 404 was seen in schools a lot, but for a basic Singer zigzag, easy to use, might even be a workhorse, 403. 403. Keep an eye on Facebook Marketplace. People give away these, and it's tan. It's two-tone tan. It's got the cool omatic fins and the slant needle. It's okay. And also the 503, which was that next slant-o-matic. Remember, same guts inside, even more Jetson styling. So 403 and 503. Again, now these have a zigzag machine has a lot more moving parts. Also, these cannot be treadled. These have an internal motor. Other Singer workhorses are the ones I mentioned a few episodes ago. The Stylomatics? The 237 and 239. I think really good old machines. But anyway, workhorse. I want a workhorse. I want a treadle. I want my very first vintage sewing machine. Get a 66. Watch Facebook Marketplace. You can get one for free if you don't mind digging in and doing a little oiling and twiddling. But even if you buy one, quote, brand new, like from a yard sale or St. Vinny's or something, you should be able to get it for about $100 in a treadle stand. I mean, the St. Vinny's up on Division Street had 2 of them. Like, where did they come from? They were the real plain 66s from the 1950s, but they're out there, and that would be my recommendation for my first vintage workhorse. Now, what are you going to feed it? If you actually had a workhorse at your farm, which my mom did, it's really important that you put the right shoes on it for what kind of ground it's working on. Is it working on limestone gravel? Is it working in sand? Is it icy? Are you using this workhorse to pull your wagon to town and it's icy out? They make horseshoes with spikes, just like studded tires.
I did not know that, but that makes total sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so horseshoeing, we're beating our workhorse metaphor. We're beating the dead workhorse.
It's not dead yet.
What are we feeding our sewing machine workhorse? Damn it, we're feeding it needles.
No haystacks, only needles.
No, only needles, because we know what is the primary definition of a sewing machine, Aradia.
Make needle go fast.
Make needle go fast. That's anything about, it all comes to the needle. We've talked about needles a couple times, but it's so important because it's the heart of the whole operation is the needle.
That's why it's our base tier in Patreon is needle.
Yes, be a needle. You're responsible for civilization, and you're neat and tidy and minimalist. So what is that, $3 a month or $1 a month?
Yeah, $1 a month.
Anyway, be a needle. Be a needle. But, okay, so most of the sewing machine related problems, stitching problems that I have ever dealt with for customers boil down to the interaction between needle, thread, and sewing machine controls, like how you've got it set, meaning tension, stitch length, feed height. And until a person understands the relationship between the needle, the thread, and the machine itself, that's the starting point. I mean, that really, don't go out and worry about what color you're going to make the jacket until you really understand how needles and thread and fabric and the machine interact, because there is no set it and forget it. My tension went out. No, it didn't. You don't have it set right for the fabric you're sewing. Let me guess. You're sewing a new fabric that you've never sewn before. And you didn't even change the needle. My tension went out. No, tension doesn't go out unless you throw it out the window. Okay, let's get over that. If anything I hate more than the word workhorse, it's the sentence my tension went out. Okay, so always when people come into the store, and the opening question for back in the day of fabric stores and sewing machine stores, the number one question you ask your customer is, "Hello, Mrs. Customer. What are you sewing? What are you working on? What are you looking for? Oh, I just came in to get some sewing machine needles. What are you working on? I want a new sewing machine. What kind of sewing do you do? Always, what are you working on? I'm not going to sell a featherweight to somebody who's sewing duck blinds out of canvas. It's just not going to happen. It's the wrong tool for the job. Think of it that way, tools for the job. Because here at Used to Sew, I'm just not really so much into collectability and cuteness so much as this is the right tool for the job and how can we use it to make the world better by combating fast fashion. Tea's kicking in right about now.
And caffeine.
So needles. Okay, there's your sewing machine. It's got an empty needle bar. What do you put in it? You know, if you don't know where to start, a size 14 universal. That's 14 or size 90 if you're doing European sizes. And usually needles have both numbers printed on them, like 14/90.
And it's the tiniest possible font on the tiniest curved little surface. And you'll need magnification and bright lights and like a chorus of angels helping in order to actually see it. Unless you get the cool ones that are like color coded, which is awesome. I have some that are color coded and that makes life a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. I think color coding, I think yellow tops are universal. I'm not sure. Or you can always keep them in the package that you bought them in because that's usually in a larger font.
Sure, yeah.
But if you don't know what you're sewing, I mean, if you just like, I just want a needle to test stuff out, get some 14 universals. They're big enough, but not too big. Okay? And they're going to sew most stuff from your average shirts and hemming up dresses and even sewing hemming up pants and stuff like that. Or making a Halloween costume. Your average sewing job, curtains for the RV, probably going to be fine. If you're sewing a regular fabric, see, this is a deal. If you're sewing a fabric that's not a plain weave cotton of a medium weight, you might need a different needle. And this can get really confusing for folks. Not only different types of fabrics and project applications need different needles, but they may also need different thread. Oh my God, there's another variable there. So this is where sewing machines so often get the blame for poor needle thread and fabric interaction. You know, the machine is going to drive where you tell it to. Now, I think, again, since this podcast is about vintage machines, I don't know if your modern one has a built-in microwave and a clock and will tell you exactly, no, that's the wrong needle for this project. I think there's ones that you like punch in on a touchscreen what you're making and it'll tell you what kind of needle and thread. I don't know this. I've heard rumors. But on your basic Workhorse, you don't get that. You got to figure it out yourself. A lot of older machines, really old machines, would even have it printed, stamped into the metal on the side plates, what size needle and what size thread. But those numbers don't apply to today's needle and thread. So you're not going to get a lot of, what's a needle size 1, size 2, size. I've got some old needles that are marked that way and I could make a guess, but no. And that's another thing. If you have some vintage needles, unless you have a vintage machine that needs that size needle, don't use those. Go buy some new needles. And most machines will use the size 15/1. I think it's also called 130, I think Faf calls it. Your basic sewing machine needle. Basic. If you've got an old one that uses weird needles, you're going to know it. If you've got a Davis long needle or a Singer swing needle, or what's that? Wilcox and Gibbs chain stitch. I mean, that's a tiny little needle. There's so many different kinds, and there's a lot of resources online about that. And there's tons of needle manufacturers that have printed the most wonderful charts with why you need this needle or that needle, or understanding why. This is goldstartool.com. How sewing machine needles are made. We're going to make them go fast, but first we have to make them. Since the invention of the sewing machine during the first industrial revolution, that says, wait, there's more than one? And then I went off onto that, but we'll save that for another time. Invention of the sewing machine during the first industrial revolution, there have been rapid advances in sewing technologies. While many people are intrigued about the invention of the sewing machine itself, few pause to wonder how sewing machine needles are made. Sewing needle has a long and fascinating history. Talks about hand needles made out of rat ribs and things like that. And then the start of the Metal Ages, copper, bronze, and iron. Sewing by the 1400s, needles were made of iron. Then it talks about the invention of the sewing machine, which we know was Elias Howe, even though Singer did it louder. So this was the whole thing about the invention of the sewing machine, was somebody had to think about, wait a minute, we need to put the eye at the point of the needle, which was completely backwards from sewing needles. So that was the whole, Today, all sewing machine needles for both commercial and personal sewing are made with the eye of the needle at the same end as the point, as envisioned originally by Elias Howe. However, the manufacturing process of sewing machine needles has developed. The hand sewing needle trade began in Germany in the 1500s. By 1807, there were 13 needle factories in Aachen, Germany, employing over 7,500 workers and supplying most of Europe with sewing needles. Aachen remained the center of the needle industry for over 150 years, and at one time, well over half the world's sewing machine needles were produced in this part of Germany.
Whoa!
When sewing machines were invented in the mid-1800s, the hand needle manufacturers in Aachen were nicely positioned to take control of the sewing machine needle process. Right? So it started with hand needles. Now, we can do this, machine needle. Almost 200 years later, companies like Schmetz mass-produce millions of high-quality needles each year. There are over 20 steps in the manufacture of a sewing machine needle. Sewing machine needles, it starts with wire. The wire is drawn from spools and straightened. Then a process called swaging shapes the shank and blade of the needle. Swaging is a cold working process where pressure forces metal into a different shape. So they're not heating it up. They're just like squishing it.
Wow.
After the needle is formed into shape, the eye of the needle is punched into the newly swaged needle. A carrier strip holds the needles in place while they are perfectly stamped with a precision high-speed stamper. Perfect stamping creates an eye that can hold the thread without weakening the thread. Right? Because you got to get sawed through there.
Right.
But it still has several steps to go through before it's smooth enough to use in a sewing machine. So then it's ground by being turned repeatedly, a precision process. Then, this is the exciting part. Several methods are used for hardening or tempering the metal, and annealing is one of the most exact methods. Annealing softens the metal and improves its structure. Okay, so they have to do this so it can hold up to the pressures and heat of sewing at high speeds. In annealing process, metal is heated and then quenched in oil, meaning they just dunk them in oil. Boy, that's smoke and flames. The needles are then slowly cooled, increasing their strength and reducing metal brittleness. Finally, they are deep frozen to make them even more elastic. So they're changing the steel at this molecular level.
I have always wondered at how sewing machine needles can be such a particular kind of sturdy, and I had no idea that it was. I assumed it was something in like the preparation of the wire itself. I didn't realize so much of it happened as it is a needle effectively already. Wow.
We're only halfway through this process.
Oh my goodness.
Finishing process of smoothing is achieved through vibration polishing and chemical treatment. The needles are placed in a tub machine with abrasive tumbling media, which is churned with the needles to remove microscopic burrs and imperfections. A chemical deburring process smooths the eye and the needles point further. The needles must be smooth enough to prevent damaging fabric or fraying the thread in the eye. The chemical deburring is a finely tuned process because if the needle is made too smooth, it will create excessive temperatures during sewing.
What? Too smooth is a thing? Wow.
Well, now on the commercial machines I've used, the thread goes through a cooling lubricant before it even hits the eye of the needle. And if you stop, the needle melts the thread. It's nylon thread. So it's just like, whoa.
Goodness.
Yeah, and don't touch the needle. Don't touch it. It'll burn you. Okay. A combination of punching tools and finishing treatments produces perfect needles, but they require a final hard straightening. Needles must be completely straight to produce precise stitches, and the annealing process causes them to often become slightly deformed. When a needle is bent even slightly, it can touch the throat plate and cause skip stitches. So every needle must be individually straightened.
What?
And there's pictures of this in the Kill Bowie video that we're going to get to some year.
Keel Bowie.
Kill Bowie.
Kill.
After it is straightened, the sewing machine needle has to be plated. But it first must be completely clean so the plating will stick. Sent through a washing unit several times to be cleaned with perchloroethylene. Ooh, that's nasty stuff. It's an industrial solvent, but it removes the smallest impurities. Perc is a colorless solvent often used in dry cleaning. It's used in many other manufacturing processes, including sewing machine needle production, because it cleans metal without weakening it. And then plating. Because of the grinding process, needles are subject to corrosion, right? So they were steel, they're going to rust, so they must be plated. Plating protects the final needle and allows it to glide through fabrics. Sewing machine needles are commonly plated with nickel or chromium through a dipping process. The needles are fitted into clamps to ensure they're plated properly. After final plating, the machines are observed with human and machine optical controls to ensure a successful process. Needles are polished then they're packaged in practical modules to keep them safe until they are ready for use. Sewing machine needle production starts with testing and quality control. Needles are constantly tested throughout the production process to guarantee quality. Different tests and inspections include spot checks, lab tests, braking tests. So this is almost like airplane engines here. So
yeah, this is really intense.
Because stuff has to move fast. Needle move fast. It's moving fast. So laboratory testing ensures the correct metallurgical composition and finishing. Modern sewing machines, he's talking industrial and commercial here, so it speeds up to 9,000 stitches per minute, and the metal has to be both strong and flexible to withstand high-speed movement and friction. Final plating of the needle is tested with an X-ray device that measures the thickness of the plating. So he goes and talks about manufacturers here. Schmetz, Singer, Grosbecker, Dritz, Organ, and Juki. By the end of the 1800s, there were 8 million home sewing machines worldwide. At that point, sewing machine needle manufacturers supplied about 200 million needles each year. Manufacturing continued to grow, and by the beginning of the 20th century, there were over 20 factories in Aachen, Germany, producing most of the global supply of needles. But after World War II, only 4 needle factories were left in Aachen. But within 15 years, they were back to producing a third of the world's needles. By 1980s, needle manufacturing companies started moving to China. Production went to 800 million needles yearly. And by 1984, only 4 factories remained in Aachen. By 2000, this was reduced to 3, and today, all sewing machine needle manufacturing has moved to either China or India.
Wow. Totally relocated.
Yeah. Needles are a critical part of the sewing machine industry. And then he goes on to talk about the different types, the main different types of points here. Universal, ballpoint, which is for knits because it slides between the weave without damaging it. A knit fabric instead of a woven fabric. Remember, not fiber, fabric. Embroidery needles have a very sharp point designed for embroidery and decorative stitching. They're very precisely manufactured because of the high stitching speed. Quilting needles, short and sharp. They can easily pass through several layers of fabric at once. So that when they talk about it's short, well, wait a minute. The point is short. They're talking about the sharpness and the shape of the point here.
The point below the eye.
Below the eye. Mm-hmm. Denim needles have a medium-length sharp point designed to pierce through multiple layers of thick fabric. Also, denim needles have a big old eye. We'll get to that in a minute. Leather needles have a sharp, triangular, knife-like point, and they're designed to pierce through thick, tough leather fabrics.
Kind of like a bayonet.
Yeah. And if you look at them up close, hand-sewing leather needles are actually three-sided. The sewing machine ones are more knife-like. They leave a little slit rather than a hole. So then it's like, okay, I got my needles. What about thread? Ooh.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those things you had to show me. Like, no, not all thread is the same. There's different sizes, there's different qualities, there's different ways to examine it and decide where it fits in the pantheon of threads.
I've got this great workhorse, and I'm going to feed it crap, straw, chaff, whatever I can get for cheap that'll fill it up.
Twinkies.
You know, I can't tell you how many times I sold a nice sewing machine and then saw the customer go over and load up her basket with the 10 for $1 cheap polyester thread. And I actually go over and go, no, you're not putting that crappy thread in this sewing. Well, why do they sell it then? They sell it for throwaway projects and basting and, please put good needles and good thread in. Otherwise, I'm going to see you in here next week. My sewing retention went out.
Right. Yeah, it's designed to have a certain caliber of ingredients to work with.
Yeah, so thread. Now, just because it's a good name brand thread doesn't mean it's the right thread for your project. There's different weights, materials, coatings for thread. Ways that it's dyed, special things like there's actually Nomex thread that doesn't burn. That's what they make fire. I mean, imagine you're sewing a firefighter, turnout gear, but then you get into the fire and the thread all burns and the thing falls apart. No, we got to have a thread that will work for this application.
There's also the winding pattern. You clued me in recently to the fact that the reason a bunch of my thread kept breaking was because it was cross-wound and needed to go up instead of sideways. And that opened up a whole bunch of my thread that I wasn't able to use because you got me a stand that allows me to change the direction of how the thread comes up. And it was great. But I didn't know that. It didn't register to me that visual pattern meant something mechanical. It wasn't just a stylistic choice.
Exactly. So that's why having a sewing mentor or watching lots of, and it's okay if you're, oh my God, I'm this many years old and I didn't know that there was a special needle for this or a special thread for that. That's okay. That's one of the fun parts of having a sewing and craft life. There's always opportunities to learn new things, try new materials, refine the techniques you already have. I mean, I watch these little shorts on social media where they'll show you just one little quick speeded up way to make a corner. And I'll go, oh my God, that's so cool,
I love those tiny little blips. You don't have to learn a million things. It's just one little short concept and you can take that away.
And you don't even have to speak English. There's a picture of a person's hand in the fabric and they'll make the little, no, don't do this. And look at this, it's real easy. Again, thread. Let's talk about thread. What are you sewing? Well, if you're sewing firefighter turnout gear, you're probably not sewing that unless you're in a factory and there's some really strict quality control there. But say you're sewing kites, like kites to fly in the sky made out of ripstop nylon. Wow, what kind of needle and thread are you going to want to use with that? Okay, you're not going to want to use a cotton thread. It's going to drag. It's dissimilar. You should use, if you can, the same material as your fabric. I've noticed this a lot where I'll buy a white garment at a thrift store and the garment's 100% cotton and you dye it and the thread doesn't dye because it's polyester. Or something else that doesn't take the kind of dye that you're using. So if you a lot of home-dyed crafter clothes. The stitching is, they buy the blank garments in bulk and then do their own stuff to them. And it's like, oh, nope. So when you buy these garments, you say, no, this is sewn with cotton thread. It's guaranteed to be the same as your garment. You'll often hear people talk about what size of a thread that is. And I'm just learning about this myself, but I ran into an interesting fact today. This is on sailrite.com. Now, they make walking foot, heavy-duty machines for leather and sails and things like that. Highly recommended. Pick your needle first. If you're just looking at your thread collection, okay, read the labels. Is it hand quilting thread? It doesn't go in your sewing machine. It has a coating on it that makes it glide through batting easier, and that will eventually, it doesn't, my tension went out. It doesn't have any tension. This thread has this coating where there's no tension because it slides through. I mean, you could use it, but you have to tweak things. You have to, change stuff. The thread should fill 30 to 40% of the eye of the needle when threaded. That's the rule of thread and sewing machine. Now I get messed up on this. My machine's skipping stitches. Are you using too small of a needle? The needle, if you look at the long groove, that's where the thread actually sits as the needle carries the thread down to the fabric. The thread has to be able to slide in that groove and not be pinched by the fabric. Certain kinds of weird fabric, you poke the needle through and the fabric closes right up behind it. You're gonna have to experiment with maybe a bigger needle to poke a bigger hole to let the thread get through and get caught by the hook just in the right amount of time. When I was making your thing on the Davis, your cosplay thing with all those dissimilar things, I had to mess around a little bit and go one size needle bigger than I thought I should to get through that bizarre, shiny, synthetic stuff.
Oh, the pink stuff?
And then leather. Yeah. There was that, and then leather, and then a cotton underneath.
Right.
And to get a thread and needle combo, it took a few tries. There's also, in commercial sewing shops, and you can use this yourself, this really fine, I think it's called Sewer's Aid when you buy it in a fabric store. And you put a little bit on your needle, and it's this really fine, it makes your needle slippery. And it makes threads and things go through faster. Skipping stitches is usually a needle and thread problem, or a weird fabric problem, or a combination of the three, and you're using the wrong presser foot.
So can I ask you a question about thread? I've seen cotton wrapped with cotton. I've seen polyester wrapped around polyester. I've seen combos.
Mm-hmm.
Why, in particular, why is there a combo? Like, why would you have polyester wrapped cotton or whatever? Cotton wrapped polyester.
Cotton wrapped polyester. Really one of the most, it's a good quality thread because you've got a really strong polyester core, but all the luster and dyeability and ironability of cotton. Cotton doesn't melt under the iron, right? So cotton wrapped polyester is really the best all-purpose garment thread. Cotton thread deteriorates like cotton fabric, especially in the presence of UV or bleach. So if it's a heavy-duty garment that's got to stay together, I would use a polyester thread. 100% polyester. Good quality, not the 10 for the dollar shit. Stuff that's $2. Another reason you want to go to the thrift stores and buy good thread. Research what is good thread. Yeah, look online at my favorite online sewing resource, wawac.com. They will tell you everything you need to know about needles and thread, but you'd have to read it yourself rather than listening to me blab about it while you're sitting there picking stitches out that you used the wrong needle. Oh, it's been real. It's been fun. Thanks for sticking with us with this little micro dive back into the nitty gritty of what is a sewing machine. It's a needle that goes fast. Or it's a needle that just works hard for a long, long time. It's a workhorse, Dan. But just remember, put good shoes on your workhorse, put good needles in your sewing machine, and stay threaded with the right size and type of thread.
And And there you have it, a crazy quilt of topics inspired by TR's irritation with the idiom of a sewing machine being a workhorse. We started with fabric as a shelter from the sun, stretched an idiom into a metaphor, talked in depth about how needles are made, and touched on how thread comes in different sizes and types and eras. We even got some begrudging recommendations for what a vintage sewing machine workhorse candidate might be, and as I said at the top, as a spoiler, TR does kind of walk back some of the irritation next week when we get even farther into needle nerdery. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine. You can reach them at srvsew@gmail.com. Follow us on social media and YouTube, and you can best support us by sharing the podcast with your friends. You can even get ad-free episodes by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/used2sew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. Please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.